don't know who they are. Maybe we've never listened to their real stories. Football matches where the winner is killed, people sacrificed to the gods, a civilization bathed in blood. So what did all these people, who are not even over 50 in height, expect from the stars? What is a horse? They have not seen, they have not heard what iron is, but they have managed to establish one of the most tremendous civilizations in history. A civilization that excites the scientific world, which still amazes, every time. I'm not coming to tell you myths, conspiracy theories, but the truth. The facts of the Mayan civilization. Right now, in the middle of the American continent, you are seeing the hooded blood temple on the flowery inner field. One of the 7 wonders of the world. There are 91 steps on each of the 4 sides. So could they have forgotten one of the 364 steps? No. There is another elevation at the summit, and thus it is completed 365 days of the year. The large steps on the sides are 18. This represents the 18-month Mayan period. This calendar they use is much more accurate than the Julian calendar of the Romans, and if the annual time between it and the modern calendar is different, it is only 17 seconds. Deck. Believe me, as you learn the secrets of this pyramid they built 1,000 years ago and many others, you will feel the admiration I feel to your bones as well. There are many things I want to show you before I return to the mysteries of the Pyramid of Blood in the Hood. First of all, let's get to know a little about these enormous people, the Mayans, who are the subject of conspiracy theories. The Mayans are a people who have started to exist as a civilization in the middle of the American continent since the 2,000 years BC. Although it is one of the longest civilizations in the entire world, we cannot talk about a single kingdom. Instead, various city-states that had decrees among themselves constituted the Maya society. One of the things that makes these people interesting is that they have observed planets. There are even calendars arranged according to the Venus star. They have placed city structures in such a way that they are oriented to teams such as the Orion constellation, the Draco constellation. Not only that, but they positioned their structures relative to the heavenly bodies. For example, if the place where the brightest or most important star was located was the largest structure of the city, and the location of smaller and fainter stars, the living quarters of ordinary people would be built. If they send, the stripes between the bright stars have decayed, we call it the way. However, there was no horse or any other passenger animal used for transportation purposes on the American continent until Europeans discovered the region. Walking or running was the only element of transportation. A messenger serving the royal family can easily run a distance of 50 kilometers per day. The population of Mayan cities, which were in constant communication with each other through running messengers, could reach 100,000. Did an ordinary citizen encounter a dwarf on the streets of the city? Then he'd better watch his moves. Because for the Mayans, dwarves are considered sacred. They were working as palace or temple employees. Look, you're seeing a statue of a wooden dwarf Maya right now. The statue, which was thought to be carrying a mirror made of obsidian on it, represented one of the king's servants. The servants who dressed the king and took care of him daily were chosen from dwarfs, and probably the person in the statue was increased to 10 while the king was preparing. If the teeth of the statue had survived to the present day, you could have seen the stones embedded in its teeth. One of the characteristics of the Mayans is that they were the first society to perform dental implants in history. Starting with the transition ceremony to manhood, usually the front teeth were removed and stones were placed here along with various mixtures. How did they do it? We don't know exactly, but it wasn't just a ceremonial rite. It's beyond decoration. It was a treatment method containing herbal mixtures that ensured the protection of the dental health of yeasts. No matter how painful the procedure is, we can easily say that the Mayans had the strongest teeth in the ancient world. The Mayans, who had learned to live together with nature, also sewed wounds with human and animal hair. Although the average height of the Mayans was about 50, they had an eerie appearance for foreigners. People who have put giant rings in their ears, warriors who have etched terrible scars on their bodies. A significant part of the public was surprised, and their foreheads were flattened. 6 Maya, squinting inside the community, open to the eyes and having a flattened area. Since nobility was accepted, boards were tied to the foreheads of the babies and beads were hung in front of their eyes to make them squint. In this way, they believed that they had a better understanding of the secrets of the world that could not be seen with normal eyes. Although many conspiracy theories have linked the case to aliens due to the shape of many Mayan skulls that have been removed being the same as in the image, this is nothing more than a conscious misinterpretation of an unusual tradition. Nevertheless, there is no reason to be afraid of this interesting image of Mayan society. Rest assured that as one of the most peace-loving societies of the ancient world, they had a way of life in which war was minimal and peace dominated every aspect of life. Except for one feature, they also have a dark side, and it's really dark. Look carefully at these reliefs. The reliefs describe one of the most terrible sporting competitions in history. Right here. Right here. On this field you see, on this ancient field, a football-like competition decked out between two teams of 7 people. A match in which the winner dies. You didn't hear that wrong. A match in which the winner dies. In this game, played with a 5-pound rubber ball with various areas such as hips, shoulders and chest without using hands and feet, the goal was to insert the ball through the hole above. In these matches, which could last for days, the leader of the winning team was beheaded and sacrificed to the gods. The head was stuck on a stick and then used to be played in other religious games. The belief that the victim would go to a better life caused the parties to win the match as much as they could and fight to be sacrificed. Of course, not every competition was held for the purpose of sacrifice. During religious holidays or entertainments, competitions were sometimes held to honor the gods, and in battle matches, winners and losers would die. Another feature of the field is the enormous acoustic system in the section where the king's lodge is located, so that when the king makes a sentence with a speaking tone from where he is sitting, this word can be easily heard by everyone on the entire field. This magnificent acoustics can be experienced even today. Scientists found coral reefs and bones of sea creatures in the building blocks used in the lodge in their research and discovered that the acoustics were provided with such planning. There is a similar feature in the pyramid, one of the new 7 wonders of the world, which we mentioned at the beginning of the video, right next to this field in Chichen Itza. As soon as you clap your hands in the serpentine direction of the pyramid, it turns to you as the sound of its bird. Is it a coincidence? Until today, it was not known if it was done consciously. However, the fact that the coral fragments and fish bones were designed in a single direction of the pyramid, as well as the fact that the Quetzar bird is considered sacred to the Mayans, and other findings now suggest that the design is conscious. The fact that the clapping of the priest's hands returned as a sacred bird sound must have affected the people of the period spiritually. Another engineering marvel manifests itself on the snaky face of the pyramid. For the Mayans, who had an agriculture-based economy, the planting and harvesting period was of great importance. They positioned the pyramid in such a way that the sun's rays coming to the pyramid during the equinox in spring and autumn form a body extension that draws an S on the back of the snake's head. This snake is a god known by the name of Kukul, and the name of the pyramid comes from the snake god with this name. Although he was shaped as a furry snake, it is clearly stated in Maya texts that he is not actually a snake, but belongs to the white human race. According to Tortec, Maya, Asti and Inca texts, he lived with people for a while, returned to the heavens after showing them the right path and teaching civilization. In some texts, he is mentioned as a plural, not as a single person. The famous Mayan Bible is called as follows. They are the ones who give the body. They are the creators. They are surrounded by green and blue, and the Mayan pronunciation of Kukulka is Khan. I wonder how did the belief in a white god, whom they styled as a snake, but described in their religious books, appear. Maybe explorers came from the other side of the world and then left. We know that the adventurous Vikings reached the American continent 470 years before Christoph Kolumb, but legally his faith dates back much earlier. Perhaps thousands of years ago, they had encountered a face they had never expected. A face coming from the other side of the world was perhaps just a figment of imagination. Now that's a real mystery. It was such a mystery that this white man, whom they excitedly believed and waited for his return one day, would come years later and bring about the end of it all. The Mayans believed that life and time consisted of a contrast and cycle of good and evil, feminine and masculine, day and night, life and death, good gods and evil gods, seasons and nature were based on this contrast and cycle. The main element in the construction of the Kugelkamp pyramid is actually based on this belief that the snake god appears on the date of the equinox and gradually disappears and goes underground. This is also the beginning of the rainy season or harvest time. If the expected cycle does not occur and the rainy season does not begin, then this time the gods want some more sacrifices. And the bloodbath begins. The reliefs here are reliefs of the heads of people taken prisoner in wars. The skulls of hundreds of artifacts sacrificed were displayed by sticking them on consecutive sticks in front of these reliefs. And the bodies of the victims would be collected in this part of the city and given to man-eating dogs. The cleaning process would have been completed. The victims were not just captives. People could also sacrifice themselves voluntarily. Of course, there had to be some features. Mostly the time of birth or a difference in the body were some of these signs. People could also give their children as sacrifices or give gifts to the temple. The most preferred ones were virgin girls. Because they were thought to be pure and innocent, the ritual of sacrifice has many different types according to the religious south and need. Usually his heart is removed by the priest, the still beating heart is lifted into the air, then he was placed on the face stone inside the temple. Sometimes the victims were thrown into the clear water springs in the cities, called the Senate and considered sacred. Today, countless skeletons continue to be removed, whose hearts have been removed, decapitated, or sacrificed by throwing them to the Senate. Speaking of which, we should also mention the crystal skulls. In recent years, investigations conducted on crystal skulls that were claimed to have been made by the Mayans and had mysterious powers that fell to the media have revealed that these skulls were produced in Europe as fake artifacts in the 19th and 20th centuries with modern tools, so science has disproved another myth. Anyway, let's get back to the real story of the Mayans now. The Mayans used writing in everyday life and had a writing system consisting of 800 symbols, but only an educated minority of the society could use such an advanced writing. They had also produced the 20 base number system. The inscriptions reveal that they make calculations with numbers of hundreds of millions and that the dates they indicate date back to very ancient times. Although they wrote down many things in their lives, when the Spaniards invaded the region, they considered them to be pagan books and burned them all. Very few of them, and fortunately, religious books have survived to this day. Maya society was founded on the family, and there was a division of labor between men and women. Of course, there was no money. But the purchases were made in the form of exchanges with cocoa fruit or other products in your hand. For example, the value of a rabbit was 10 cocoa fruits, and what is interesting to me, friends, is that societies that live on both sides of the world unaware of each other have developed on the basis of family, religion and state. Don't you think it's interesting? Doesn't this situation sum up human nature a little bit? But now I want to tell you about an interesting feature of Mayan society. There was almost no crime decriminalized among the people. Already, a significant part of the day was spent working in the fields or various jobs, but the people were also docile and obedient. If they wanted to hurt someone, they used a different method of doing it. According to their religious beliefs, every Mayan would have a spiritual identity with an animal. For example, let's imagine that every animal of yours is a crow. The person who wanted something bad to happen to you would kill a crow and wait for the result. The same was true for goodness. See, this is the ancient city of Tikal. Today, the enormous architecture of this 2,400-year-old Mayan city located in Guatemala amazes a person. A mega-city consisting of 3,000 buildings and a population of up to 120,000. Pyramids more than 60 meters high, giant palaces, ballrooms, entertainment venues, were suddenly abandoned and left to the silence of the forest. His abandonment had raised big question marks for many years and caused conspiracy theories. However, research had revealed the conclusion that the city was also abandoned by the drought, which began as a result of the destruction of the natural environment by a large population in which a large amount of mercury was mixed into the water resources. Even more interestingly, in the construction of these giant cities, neither animals were used, nor wheels were used, they did not even have iron in their hands. Even swords were made of a kind of volcanic glass called obsidian. Because American civilizations had not discovered iron, the Mayans brought tons of rocks that they would use to build all these giant cities by breaking them with carving tools and chipping them with these tools again. They performed the transportation process by sliding and dragging with human power and mastered mathematics. The Mayans had proved something to us. He had proved that human beings could achieve the best they could with the means at their disposal, but like every great civilization, one day they too came to an end. First, drought, then Aztec invasions, then Spanish attacks that came with geographical discoveries ended their civilization. Millions of them were burned by the Spaniards. He was subjected to torture, he was killed in pain. The artifacts they left were looted, their wealth was taken to Europe, while the survivors tried to live for centuries either by fighting or as slaves. That white man they had been waiting for had made an end of them. Today, they no longer have a state. Perhaps they are even further behind their ancestors, but 7 million Mayans in Central America continue to preserve their language and culture and remember the mysterious gods of the ancient world. They have become an example to humanity. They have changed humanity. Although they were painfully erased from the stage of history, their names were not forgotten. They were Jaguar's children. They were Mayans. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and write comments and follow me right now. See you.